I've been really excited to talk to all of you. I get to present at a lot of churches, but obviously this one's my favorite. Of course, because you are my sending church, you are my family, and you've been behind me from day one at 13 years old. But before I get into what I did over this past year, what I'm doing now, and what my plans are, I'd like you to take a little bit of a thought journey with me this morning. I'd like you to imagine how your life would be different if you had never learned to read. What would your life be like right now? If you were told for your whole life you are hopeless, you are worthless, you can never change, and you never had the opportunity to open a Bible and read that the creator of the universe loves you, wants you, and values you, how would your life be different today? That is the reality for the over 3 million Roma people, or Gypsy people, that live in Romania. And those are the people that you are reaching by sending me to Romania to work on this church planting team. I am sent out of this church, and that is a big deal. And a big part of this presentation is letting you know what you were doing in Romania by sending me there over this past year. So the story begins at 13 years old. I was called into missions, and at 16 I was able to go in 2011 for a 3-week trip to visit some missionaries who our church supports, Dave and Ruth Kimmel. And after those 3 weeks, I came home, but my heart stayed. And I just knew that I wanted to be a missionary to the Roma. I knew that God wanted me to be a missionary. So I went to college for missions. I have a bachelor's degree in that with a minor in worship ministries. And then in 2019, I had the opportunity to go back to Romania for 6 months, at this time in a different area with a different group of missionaries, which, again, this church supported. So that first trip and 2019, you were behind me 100%, and I so appreciate it. It made such a difference. And then most recently, I got back about a month and a half ago from a 1-year trip to Romania, back in the Northwest where the Kimmels are. And you sent me on that trip. And now I'm on deputation. And deputation is a fancy word for I'm traveling to different churches and raising support so that I can go back to the field full-time this time. So let's talk about what you did in Romania over this past year. The first thing I want to highlight are our ladies' meetings. And I want to highlight this. We did a lot of big events. I was able to participate in Vacation and Bible School, in back to school festival, all sorts of things. But I want to highlight this one specifically because there were people in this church who were giving above and beyond. And because you were giving above and beyond, I was able to help out with funding the Spring Ladies Meeting. So we only have a few believers in the village right now. We work in a Roma village. We work in Lungșoara, in the Roma community there. In every city, village, town in Romania, there's a Roma community on the outskirts of that. They're a distinct people group, distinct worldview, distinct culture. So that's where we work. We have our church right outside. And there are only a few believers right now, but you see all of these women who came. This is so many women from that community. And there are maybe 2 people sitting in those pews, on those benches, that have received Christ as their Savior. But they come to these ladies' meetings. They love these ladies' meetings. They come in with big smiles, excited. And they're able to hear the gospel every single time they come to the ladies' meeting. And so we were able to share the gospel with all of these women. And we were able to have really good spiritual conversations with them afterwards, for weeks afterwards. So I wanted to present that to you and thank you for that specifically and making that happen. Another big thing I was able to do while I was there was work in youth group. So I did teach children and I helped out in youth group, and I was doing one-on-one. Sometimes we had a Bible project, and that involved a lot of one-on-one Bible study and a kind of mentorship thing. And I was able to work with some of our girls one-on-one and have really good conversations and kind of guide them through the scriptures. I got a message from a girl, Logojana, she's one of our teens. I got a message from her on Facebook earlier this week. And she said, "When are you coming back to church?" I said, I can't come right now. I'm in the States. It'll be a year and a half or 2 years. And she said, oh my word, that's so long. 2 years is so long. Do you not want to be with us? And I was like, no, I want to be with you. Don't think I don't want to be with you. I'm praying for you. I love you, But it's hard to explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. But yeah, they are eager for me to come back. I am eager for me to come back as well. So your support makes that happen, and thank you. Next, I want to focus on the music. So many of you know I play the violin. I play a couple of instruments. And I'm not going to get into the details because I get really nerdy with music, so I'm going to keep it surface level. But one of the lasting impacts that I was able to have in the village church is that when I got there, we were only using backtracks in the church. There were no instruments. But because of my knowledge of music theory, I was able to let us have instruments. And so when I'm there, I play the violin. Of course, I'm not there right now. But the team that is still there, this morning, they had a piano and a guitar because, well, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty. But suffice it to say, now we're able to have instruments. So the music is a huge part of Roma culture. They are passionate about it. It is the language their heart speaks. And many of them are musicians. So having the ability to have instruments really opens wide an opportunity of discipleship and getting them involved in the ministry. So our goal as church planters is to start a church, raise up leaders, and then go start another church. So this gives them the opportunity to have a leadership role in their own church. And my vision for the future is to be able to raise up young believers and teach them and disciple them in the worship ministry and teach them to use those passions to serve God and to serve the local church. And that way we can raise up these leaders. So the next thing and the last thing I want to highlight here is pleasant little trees. And this is something I talked about before I left that we were planning to do. And it did not have a name yet, but in Romanian, the name is Pomișori plăcuți, which is pleasant little trees. And it is our school readiness program. I referred to it as preschool program before I left. We didn't have a super clear vision on it yet, just an idea that we were able to work on. So Ruth is my teammate, pictured there. We also support Dave and Ruth Kimmel. We were able together to start this ministry for kids who are from 3 years old up into first grade to help them start school on the right foot. There's a boy in the village that we worked with. His name is Florinel. He's going into second grade next year, and he can only identify one letter of the alphabet. That is not a good way to be going into second grade. And that is the reality for many or most of the kids in the village. There's a huge problem with illiteracy, and the parents have an 8th grade education or less. And so, and even if they have an 8th grade education, they're kind of passed along, and so they don't really meet the standard of an 8th grader with the ability to read and write and all of these things. So they have trouble being able to have the tools to teach their children what they need to know before entering school and helping them through school. So we kind of help bridge that gap. And we teach literacy, and we teach being able to sit still for an extended amount of time, and how to follow directions correctly, and all of the things, all of those skills that you need going into school just to help them start well. So my next slide is one that I have at every church that I go to present. But here it's a little different because you're already doing most of these things. Though what can you do? You are praying for me, and I so appreciate it. I receive text messages or Facebook messages telling me that you were praying for me, and I felt it and I knew it, and God sustained me through your prayers, and I thank you so much for that. Please do continue to pray for me, that God would sustain me over deputation. And there are spiritual walls up in the Roma community. There are spiritual barriers that we can't see and that we are utterly powerless against. But God is not powerless against those things. God has the power to get through those spiritual barriers, to knock down those walls so that the gospel can get through to their hearts. And so I would ask you to pray for the spiritual warfare going on in our ministry and in the Roma community, that God's gospel, the gospel of Jesus Christ, would be able to penetrate their hearts. The second thing up there is giving, which, again, you are already doing, so thank you for that. Being sent out of this church is a great head start for me, a great first start going out on deputation, and I appreciate it so much. And some of you were giving above and beyond, and all of it I just really, really appreciate, so thank you. It helps me to get to the field faster and helps me to live on the field when I'm there. And then thirdly is work, and this one's a little more unique. So I was called to the mission field through Missionaries on Deputation, and I am now a missionary on deputation. So I'm well aware that there could be someone in this room who God is working on their heart for full-time ministry. And I would encourage you to fully consider it, to pray about it. It could look like a short-term missions trip, like the one that our team to the Philippines just got back from, or it could look like full-time ministry. With our team, we need more people, we need church planters, and youth workers and musicians and all of these things, or it could be somewhere else because there are needs all over the world of people who have never had the chance to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I would just ask you to prayerfully consider that. I have a ton more I could say. I love talking about all of this. So if you have any questions, please come and talk to me. I am going to be back in the lobby, and I will have prayer cards over there. You can get my prayer card and then a sign-up sheet to sign up for regular updates. Usually monthly. Every once in a while I miss a month, but bi-monthly, definitely. So thank you. I really appreciate the time that you've given me and all of the support that you've given me as my family.